So whenever I'm talking to Melissa, who I go skiing with, all this stuff is, I think about how beautiful is it, how good is the skiing, how good is the après,
Yeah.
and the skiing's really good, but unless there's a high speed quad, I've got some issue. The beauty's nice, but like all these mountains in the Selkirks and the Purcells south of Revelstoke, they're part of the Rockies. They all look the same. They're not that dramatic. The peaks are cool, but now I can see why they get forgotten, right? Like if I do all the math, like maybe it's a 6 out of 10, but it's a great time to ski there.
Yeah.
And I stay. There's a place called the Big Hole, which is between another place called Maverick, which is only like 500 skiable acres,
Mm.
but there's two hot springs there. So you stay in a Big Hole, Montana, which is interesting. And I don't know, is this like, is Native American history interesting to Canadians, or like British people, or what?
Well, I mean, here in Canada, like a big part of what I've experienced of culture is definitely, acknowledging the use of lands that belong to, Native American tribes. I have to be honest and say my knowledge is quite limited of that, but it's a big part of, a lot of community organizations, that acknowledgement is a part of that, and businesses too.
So the reason I say that is in 1870 there was a battle there in Big Hole where like 60 Native Americans were murdered by like 30 like troops and a general in Lost Hole
Hmm.
in Montana, and it's also where Lewis and Clark got held up in the late 1800s. So there's a lot of American history there, and there's hot springs there, and it's super off the beaten path kind of place that, like, I feel like if I met somebody that's been skiing at Vail their whole life, or going to Revelstoke even, or going to Chamonix, if I brought you to like the Big Hole and I brought you to Lost Trail and Maverick, you'd be like, oh, there's still places like this exist.
Yeah.
And it's just so they're beautiful. They're not as amazing as Jackson Hole or Revelstoke, but they're still there. There's still people skiing, and it was a lot of fun.
Sometimes, like the smaller resort or the lesser known ones today that are like hidden away or forgotten are the ones that still have like the most unique character. And I guess, like, that's part of the enjoyment of experiencing new places, be it big or small, is finding somewhere and actually realizing, hey, this is a hidden gem, and that's what Revelstoke was 15, 20 years ago. Um,
So you strike me as a guy that's been around to a lot of the big resorts, and even Revelstoke, which to me is big, is is somewhat of a hidden gem. I
I mean,
mean, do you like going to some of those smaller resorts?
I mean, small for me now. It obviously size, depends on a number of factors. I appreciate the towns with community now, and I think that's a reflection of where I am with my work life in a resort. And as you get a little bit older, working winters, not just winters, but when you get familiar with one place, I think you you kind of enjoy familiarity, similarity, and not being in a large, loud party town. So, I did my first year in the Three Valleys in France, which was the biggest interconnected ski area in Europe. Um, and it's just, you were out, you're in your early 20s, you're out drinking, partying two, three, four times a week, not really saving much.
Wait,
The
were
old-
you partying two, three, or four times a week?
I don't know. They all blurred into one after a while.
So you're partying 2 to 4 times a week.
Anywhere between, yeah, I guess.
Okay.
But when at that age, you don't really have much of a care in the world. So that's a long-winded way of saying that actually, I've gone as I've gotten older, I've gone for quality over quantity. So I would consider Revelstoke as a town pretty small. Um, and when prior to coming here, when I was in Niseko, I would say the ski area was pretty small, but the all-round experience of the mountain what it offered was far greater, I would say, than from what I was aware of in France, for example.
So okay, so you've been around. If you were like somebody said, okay, Bramski, Matt, what should I know about skiing? What could you tell me about skiing? What would you say?
Depends on the age, I guess. I'd have to tailor it towards. I mean, I would say that it is a very liberating experience. It's a great way, I think, to switch off from the cares and the worries of today's world, especially. Um, you know, you do not really have to be worrying too much about societal pressures, especially as a young person. Maybe less of a worry to the elderly people. It's never too late to learn to ski, I would say. Never too late to go and work a winter. I believe there are some misconceptions on the sport in terms of its.
What are some of the misconceptions?
Look, this is coming from a British perspective, and I think certain. I'm English. I'm white. I'm middle class, and I ski. So that in itself is a stereotype, I guess, but it's probably reinforced to an extent. However, I heard a lot of people back home who had never been skiing would tell me it is exclusively for white middle class, white middle class people. And in the several years that I have done this, all my experience has shown that is not the case, and a lot of that is down to actually initiatives to make it more accessible. I mean, take the class thing out of it for a second. The one thing I think this side of the ocean does exceptionally well, and I don't know if they do it in the UK, but there's a lot of, programs targeting making it more accessible to ladies, making it more accessible for those who are perhaps disadvantaged, reduced costs. There's what's the word? Charities and non-for-profit organizations promoting it to people of different backgrounds and ethnicities. And that's been a huge progress in the resort.
So have you had a problem in Revelstoke with too many women skiing in the Revelstoke?
No, that's not what I meant.
Is it an issue with all these ladies up there? I mean, I feel like there might be too many women up there skiing. You don't want to ruin it with all these women that might be skiing in Revelstoke.
I'm not going to bite on that little fish line. That was that's poor journalism. That is.
My thing is, there's never been any women involved with skiing. It's nice for you to say, like, okay, it's a middle class white sport, but yeah, I don't know. I think we should focus on the women skiing more often.
Well, they've been some of the greatest achievers. So as I say, like, to reinforce what I was getting at before I kind of waffle. Yeah, obviously, like, making it clear, like, I got told that by some ex-girlfriends when I was very young, but skiing was always a passion of mine. And it kind of bugged me, because then when I actually went over and worked in these places, I met people from all backgrounds, all sort of classes, and I didn't see that division. Sure, you go to some pretty rich places and there's a certain demographic, but I think an overall reflection of the ski industry is that it is very, very diverse. And on the female side of things, I mean, they are some of the sort of, what's the word? Standard bearers, not the word. The leaders, I guess, in some of the progression. I mean, let's look at the last couple, the American skiers, especially.
Lindsey Vonn, right?
Lindsey
She's going to be on our podcast soon.
Oh well, if we can get that on, we've made it.
I don't know why she wouldn't be on here personally.
Why wouldn't you? Why would?
I mean, I am American, and we both like Lindsey Vonn.
Listen, why have interviews with sort of Eurosport or Red Bull or whoever when you can be on a little circle with snowflakes falling in the background? Like,
well, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, Come on, Control E is all we need.
But we've got our own as well. So for several years at the peak of British alpine skiing was Shemi Olkar. She then moved into sort of ski broadcasting and other things, and she was someone hugely who people looked up to, and no doubt had a huge effect on young women, both of them, I would say, that have hopefully inspired them to take up racing or to take up skiing, and that's a huge good thing.
Okay, I'm going to rephrase this. Okay, so you're up there in Revelstoke, best snow of the year.
Yeah.
Dedicated your life to skiing.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's a tricky one right now, because I'm kind of, I'd say prior coming into this winter, I'd say the last year or two was a lot easier to kind of enjoy. Really, I'm trying to be present and enjoy now, like what's in front of me, and make the most of this winter. But I am pretty much all just thinking about what could or couldn't be happening in the next few months with my position. Am I going to be staying in Canada or not?
I get kicked out of Canada.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's kind of hard to be present, but I think that's where the mountains are so great. The moment you clock off from the work and you got the weekend ahead of you, the moment I'm up there, like I just forget about everything else. And whether
you're dealing with a lot of stress because you don't know where you're going to be. You're dedicated to working in the snow industry and the ski resorts, but you're in Canada and you don't know 1 year to the next where you're going to be. So you're just trying to take it day by day.
Yeah, and I guess like for someone who's very, very young and just starting out, just isn't really thinking about that type of thing when they come out and do their first winter, you're not going to care about any of that. You are literally just going to be like, okay, where are we going out on Friday? Who am I skiing with on Saturday? But as you get older and you obviously set some life goals, yeah, there's definitely something that is preoccupying me right now.
How old are you now?
Have a guess.
32.
Yeah, bang on. Yeah.
I'm right. I nailed it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I'm asking for a reason, but, I've been lucky. I've gone to all these little ski resorts and even in America, right? Which is, I think, it's interesting to talk about America and Europe and Canada. Like I'm going down to Colorado for work.
Yeah.
And Telluride charges $245 a day to ski. I'm making okay living, but I'm not willing to pay $245 a day to ski in Telluride, one of the most storied resorts at this point in America.
Yeah.
And
we're getting onto this is a subject which I think I sort of shared a brief message with you on the other day, and I don't want to try and get too much into the nitty gritty stuff of certain events that are going on at certain resorts, but at the same time, that side of the industry, this whatever you want to call it, whether it's like cost of living crisis, whether it's sort of large multi-conglomerates running multiple resorts versus your community hills, I find that very interesting, and I'm keen to keep learning about it as a Brit, because in Europe, I don't think we really have anything like that. To the extent that it's actually going on here in the US, and then also a little bit in Canada right now.
Well, I think it's weird. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and I neither of us want to go there. We just be stoked about skiing, right? And you're doing it for a living. But my thing is, I'm going down. I'm going to get a free trip to Telluride.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to pay $245 a day to ski there.
Yeah.
And then also the locals are striking.
Don't they have like 6% snow coverage as well or something?
Yeah, it's been pretty bad snow as well. At the end of the day, here's what's interesting that's happening, right? It's because of inflation or whatever you want to call it. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and like we still want to ski. In in isolated incidences, there's a striking going on.
Yeah.
and I don't want to put you on the spot because I know it's your living, but I mean, these people that are buying $2 million condos eventually are going to have to pay more. The middle class is going to get pushed out of skiing. And I mean, do you feel like you're getting pushed out of skiing? I mean, what is your situation on that, watching the economics of skiing?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking exclusively about what's going on in this resort municipality, it is the single biggest issue in the community is affordability and housing. That's not just exclusive to the resort itself. I mean, like the town as a whole. And it's got a huge amount of exposure, and therefore there is a lot of different working groups focusing on doing it. I mean, I think, yeah, focusing on fixing it, or at least trying to improve conditions. I think the way the levels in which government operate here in Canada is different from the US, and certainly from what I'm aware of how it works, back in Europe, and so there are initiatives at the federal level. There's initiatives going on at the provincial level as well to try and improve affordability on the housing front. Now, for me, in terms of a living perspective, I don't feel like I'm getting priced out. Has the rent that I've paid over the years increased the longer I've stayed here? Yes. The first thing I'll be totally transparent. When I first moved here, I think I was paying I was either paying 700 or 750 a month Canadian.
So you could work your day job and have a place that you could live yourself.
Yeah.
And stay in Revelstoke.
Yeah, yeah.
Be comfortable. Get a couple beers, get dinner a couple nights a week.
Sure.
And not be stressed out about it.
Yeah. Whereas now fast forward, I'm paying $900 a month plus utilities. So especially in the winter months, that adds up a little bit. But that's around average. I mean, and that's a shared place. I mean, listen, I'm up. This kind of looks nice with all the bottles of gin behind me, but I'm in a basement, and that is
It looks nice, but the snowflakes. You made fun of my snowflakes. Yeah. Between the gin and the snowflakes, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but this is a pretty like a familiar living situation for most people working in ski towns, and I guess you do get to certain ages where you kind of have to weigh up, how you. Well, I can only say from my experience that you are constantly weighing up, how much longer do I want to be in this situation? What can I do to improve my living situation? And
so what next for you? Like you getting burnt out on the ski industry? Or are you gonna go work selling advertisements for a marketing agency in England, or what's next? Are you gonna just keep fighting the good fight?
I'm keeping my options close to my chest. Maybe depending on how things go, maybe later in the spring when we have a thing there, and if things are heading in a different direction, I might have a direct answer. But I'm keeping my options close to my chest right now, until I know for certain what is going on here in terms of what's happening to me. I'm just sort of staying as it is.
Well, my thing is I've been in your situation, right? I've lived around, and I'm older than you, probably by 15 years. So it used to be if you could buy property 15 years ago and hang on to it, you were like independently wealthy, which is true. But I have had ups and downs, and my property got taken away from me, and I've worked at ski resorts, and Melissa is like pretty successful, and my fiance that you've met, and so it gives me the freedom to do the skiing. And then you've got to look at the icon paths and the epic paths, and the finances of this weird world are ridiculous, but I mean, I'm going to go into it till I die, right? Like I don't care. Like if I've got to buy an icon pass or an epic pass, or if I got to like ski up a mountain, I'm going to do it because that's what I love. But you're in the middle of it, right? You're not married to Melissa. You're 32. You might want to have kids. You're living in Canada. You're trying to do your best. And it's weird what's happening now, right? So guys like you and our creating unions and they're striking against their owners. But I don't think it has to do with the unions and strikes. It has to do with the separation of the rich and the poor, and it's just stretching out more and more, right? So
it's a tough one, and I hear that argument. I mean, I think you've kind of, as hard as it is, you've got to take the emotion out of it, because I mean, yeah, understandably, you can kind of point fingers at saying that the haves and the have-nots. And I think there's an argument for that definitely deserves some exposure, especially on this side of the ocean, with especially some of the stories that have gone on with workforces in America, especially. I think there's some legitimacy to that. But like I think I would bring it back to okay, let's sort of talk exclusively about Canada right now, and it ties in a way to the immigration situation with staff, because you know, up until about 2.5, no, not even 2.5 years ago, prior to the most recent Canadian election, housing was the biggest topic, like especially in ski towns, and again, it still is, but pretty much everywhere in Canada, everyone was saying housing is too expensive. We need more housing, and every British person I know, especially my dad, who's a surveyor, he's built things by his trade, and he comes over and he says, I cannot believe how much land this place actually has, and yet the low amounts that you guys that they actually build out here. And what I'm getting at here is the supply and demand. So one of the larger reasons why obviously prices are so high in Canada and in ski towns as well. Well, Canada, you've got limited space. That I agree with that. But how much did they actually build? Now they are racing to try and build now fast as they can, with every different type of house imaginable, including affordable housing. But as a direct response to this becoming the major issue, they then have decided to really rein back on immigration. So for people who dream of working in ski towns, where Canada has probably been a really fantastic opportunity in the last couple of years, that is going to become less of an opportunity for people. Yeah, I've rambled on, and I can see there's some comments.
Well, let me see what the comments have to say.
Sorry, yeah.
All right, I can share these with the screen.
Yeah.
Here we go. I've got the Blessed Cowboy.
Jesse. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna show that on the screen, I think.
Yeah, we had one as well above.
Did you notice the resort being slightly slower this Christmas and New Year's than years in past? If so, would you contribute that to lift prices being $200?
Ooh, interesting. So lift prices at Revelstoke actually went up last year, and yeah, I mean, I think the cost of living situation has affected some consumers' trends. We were noticing that in the summer, especially, whereby despite everything that was going on in America, a lot of Canadians were choosing to holiday in Canada rather than go to the US, but were being quite selective over what they would be willing to spend on. Maybe there's a part of that. I thought the resort was pretty busy. I think one of the major differences this year compared to last year around Christmas was we had more terrain open. And as I'm sure Jesse here knows, that when you've got, when you can ski top to bottom, the people spread out more at Revy. So you don't have as many queues at the Stoke Chair, when there's high winds and everything like that. So not everybody was rushing to go to the top. There was a lot more, people, I think, visiting from the US, especially, also from the West Coast. and many of them maybe not skiing that type of terrain anymore as much. So the fact that they could ride the blue runs, the mid-mountain groomers, yeah, I think they spread out a bit more. That was my observation anyway.
Well, it's interesting. So, like, I would say I'm an advanced skier. You know, I can do double black diamonds, like to do one a day. And I might eventually do a video on the sub peak, like you've done, which led me to you. Um, you know, do you think, like, both you and I are focusing on the advanced skiers? Do you think we should be focusing more on the beginner and intermediate skiers with our videos?
Um, I think that would be a question to ask the viewers and those who are watching. Really, I mean, you know, for the people who are watching this, you know, what do you guys enjoy hearing about? Is it the advanced stuff? Is it the more beginner stuff? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just getting back, let's make sure we highlight. I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Valmrast?
I'll put that on there.
Yeah, he meant.
Well, what's your off-season job? He wants to know, and he'd like to know. Yeah. Also, Ski Discovery Basin is still hidden and off the beaten path. Worth checking it out.
Have you done that? Have you been there?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
No. That's in the. Do you know where it is?
No, I have no idea.
I've got to Google it. So I work full time. So I mean, you know, that is probably one of the main reasons I've been able to stay in the same place as long as I have. And I knew when I first moved into Canada, I was working in a heli ski lodge for the first winter, and within a few weeks of you being in Revelstoke, you're chatting with Aussies, you're chatting with Kiwis, Brits, and everyone is talking, you know, are you going to go? Well, at least when I moved here, everyone was saying, are you going to go for permanent residency? That conversation I don't think is happening as much now because people don't think it's attainable. And so, yeah, and so within a few weeks of that, it was like, right, well, how am I going to make that work? And it was, well, you got to get a full-time job. And yeah, I mean, there's not many that come by, but that's where I set my sights on a few years ago.
So if you had somebody ask you, like, what is your favorite part of Revelstoke? What do you, if you had a Brit friend or somebody from Australia or like just people with the same accent as you from Africa that said, I want to come to Revelstoke, I want to come to Canada to ski, what would you tell them to do?
Well, I would tell them that you've got two real types of ski resorts. And again, this depends on your age and what you're actually coming to the resorts to do. If you're wanting to do maximum ski time, you're wanting good nightlife, you're wanting the whole, you know, young seasonal experience, go to a Whistler, go to a Sun Peaks, go to a Big White where it's close to a city. Let
me cut you off. So Sun Peaks compared to Whistler and Big White, that's a big difference between those three places, isn't it?
I would say Sun Peaks and Big White are pretty similar, and maybe Silver Star's an extension of that in the sense that they have resort villages. So, you know, a lot of the amenities, I guess, you know, your bars and your restaurants and your living, it's all on site. There's no separation between, say, town and resort, whereas Revelstoke has that. I think Fernie has that. I think also Nelson has that to a larger extent. I could be wrong on Fernie, but as I understand it, right. And so you've kind of got more kind of all-round living in the town, and Revelstoke, because of where it is in relation to you know, it's situated right in the Monashees and the Selkirk mountain ranges. Mountain culture is a huge part of that life. So the outdoor lifestyle comes a lot more naturally, but it has this unique balance whereby, yeah, you can kind of live healthily, but also be in the mountains, you know, pretty much all day long if you had it. As I say, 10 minutes from the resort. I hear that Nelson is a little bit different from that. You know, it's got the mountain close by, but the town is pretty big, and so there's less of that. Yeah, I could go on.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm asking, right, with the difference, because those are. I feel like those places you mentioned, Whistler is kind of a mecca for any skier, but then the other resorts are lesser known. I feel like, but you set them in the same breath. But
Yeah,
I think
it's funny you mentioned you briefly touched on the Powder Highway, which I think is actually a really cool initiative. They've sort of shared a few of my posts recently, but I go on their website and they sort of really try and promote the tourism around those destinations. I think it would be great if there was some form of lift pass that allowed you to kind of ski across multiple of those resorts, like and have the flexibility to do so. I mean, people don't mind driving long distances in this part of the world. And
I do think there's a shared path between at least Fernie, Panorama, and Kimberly.
Yeah.
I can't think of the other places off the top of my head, but they try. But I mean, how are you going to compete with the Epic and the Icon and whatnot? I don't. I mean, I know you love Revelstoke, but Revelstoke's on the Icon paths. But it's interesting. Like, I don't mean to bring it back to there, but if you bring it up to those things, like, it's a lot different. Like, Kimberly was $150 a day, $160 Canadian a day to ski there per person. So I don't know how you compete against the Icon Pass. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But Fernie's amazing. I love Kimberly. I love Panorama. But yeah, the Powder Highway, I mean, I think that would even include Golden for one, and Kicking Horse. Those are all part of the Powder Highway.
Yeah, I think the challenge you probably have is that obviously there's the tourism, which promotes the area generally, but then each of those areas has sort of their own arrangements in terms of what how they run as a business, what agreements they have in place. It differs from each one. So yeah, it's not straightforward. Apparently, there's such thing as a USSA Gold Pass, which is valid at all US ski areas.
Well, this is what Valmrith says, right?
Yeah. There's also, I mean, on our side, you've got something called the Canadian Ski Pass, which I think is dealt with by I think it's the Canadian Ski Council. I could be wrong, and that kind of opens up some options. There are a few things like that in Europe. Like if you're in Austria, there's the Tyrol Super Ski Pass. Switzerland has things like the Magic Pass. So there are like multi-resort options, and yeah, I think for someone, if I was in your situation at your age and I had the freedom, to do so, having been exposed to these sort of multi-resort ski passes, I think that's something I would quite enjoy, is having that freedom to do so. It's still very sort of on the edge, I think, in Europe. And I know that Icon has partnered up with a few European resorts. For many people, I think at least from Brits anyway, they still want to go to one place for 6 or 7 days.
Well, I bought the Icon Pass the last 4 years, and that's a no-brainer from where I live.
Yeah.
And that's also where your ski resort is, and a lot of others. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't want to bore everybody with that, but when I look at going to Telluride and I see $250 a day, I don't want to pay that. So, and then when you came up earlier, it's like, oh, your friends. It sounds like a fancy sport, and I don't think it is. It wasn't at one point, but right now, if you don't commit with like $1,500 a month, or if you don't work for the resort, it's a hard sport to grasp.
Sure. Now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I mean, you've mentioned a couple of resorts there where the price of the ticket is $250, $300, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've just sort of read on my own, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the purpose of that to sort of push people towards actually buying the multi-resort passes, which are actually cheaper?
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know if it's push or it's just what's happened, but I mean, It's the only route to skiing. If you're somebody who likes to ski 10 times a year, the Icon Pass is a godsend. If you're somebody who wants to ski 5 times a year, is Triangle ski, you can't get your head around spending $1,500 on a pass.
Yeah.
It's just a new reality.
I mean,
And,
I mean, I can see when you're sort of faced with that, and let's say you're brand new to skiing, and you've been invited on for a trip with some friends who are experienced skiers, and they say we're going to go for 4 or 5 days in this one place, but then you see it's $250, $300 a day. Granted, though, that is probably the window rate. That's probably not what it is if you book online ahead of time. But those are things you don't know unless you've sort of been in the industry a while and you know the little secrets on how to make your best savings. Yeah, it can be a lot.
So okay, here's the interesting thing. So you and I are both we've put out, like, even with the Epic and the Icon Pass and the Revy, whatever you pay for Revy.
Yeah.
How do you and I get rich on selling a pass that lets you ski at Epic and Icon and Revy? Do you think there's somebody that would accept it? Because it just seems like they just want that initial money. Could we start the Matt Pass or the Bramski Pass?
Yeah, the Bramski Powder Pass.
Yeah, I think that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Do you think you can? Can you solve that problem?
I certainly would. I don't know whether I'd make any money from it, but if I charge how much I would charge for it, that's a good one. Actually, okay. So hang on. Let's have a bit of fun with this. So if you could create a multi-resort pass, and you had 5 resorts that you could put on your pass to sell, what would it be?
Well, I've already said what my favorite passes, like, places are in, like, Europe, Canada, and US.
Yeah.
So in Europe, it is Revelstoke. In Europe, it's Zermatt. And in America, it's Copper Mountain, right?
Yeah.
So those are the 3. So I'd make it those 3, and then I'd sell it for $900.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you wanted to get a female escort from Poland, it would be $3,000.
Is that where's that come from?
Well, I mean, if we want to beat the competition, you got to throw an escort in there.
My USP would be that I'd be able to take people to the places in towns where I know they serve good Guinness. I know.
Oh, fair.
Yeah, I know the places that have the good nitrogen taps, and so the pour is going to be good.
Well, that's fair. I think that might, if you make it particular to Bramski, you could do that. And I think a lot of people would pay an extra $1,500 to get good Guinness.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you'd show them the good runs.
Yeah. If I could put 5 resorts, I mean, Revelstoke would definitely be one of them. I would also add, let's see here. I mean, I think I'd have to add the Ski Welt in Austria. I think I would also add the Zillertal area.
What's the Zillertal area?
Zillertal is like Meyerhofen, the Hintertux Glacier. It's like a huge, massive area just outside of Innsbruck. Like, if you want value for money on a multi-resort pass, like, that is it right there for sure.
So Melissa and I just reserved a Solden for 6 nights. Yeah.
That's also supposed to be a good area.
Okay.
What else? Who would have got that? Was that 3? Yeah, 2 in Austria. I think we'd also have to go La Rosière in France, just because it's connected to the Italian border. 5th one. Ooh. I don't know where I'd maybe add.
I think Bramski or Matt, we need to come up with a package for you, because who knows what's going on in Canada. You don't want to come to America and compete with the South Americans. We need to come up with a Bramski package that you pay $3,000 for, that's good Guinness, good skiing, and good times.
Yeah.
You think you could sell that?
I could sell that. I think there's a couple of potential powder packages I could put together for tours and take people around.
All right. Anybody on here, would you go on a Bramski trip?
I think I'd be an all right host. I think I'd look after people.
Let's see what somebody here has somebody say. I enjoy the content regarding the hidden gems that the locals keep to themselves. I've explored and got to know Revelstoke Resort very well because of the content in this way. This is a blessed cowboy.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, if you want to know, like, where I'm from, I mean, Lookout Pass and Silver Mountain, Schweitzer, these aren't places that are destination resorts.
Mm.
But if you want to know how to get there, and I'll tell you, and Lost Trail and Maverick are gorgeous. And where I stayed in Big Hole in these hot springs, I feel like it's the kind of trip that people would kill to know about, but you're not going to know unless I tell you, or the other 1,000 people that might know, but they're not going on YouTube.
No.
And this is where Bramsky will tell you, like, if you go to Switzerland and these places, I mean, I don't think either Bramsky or I are trying to sell these trips, but we just enjoy talking skiing.
We are unintendedly selling them, even though we're not trying to, and we should be getting commission from these resorts for selling them. The amount of airtime we've been giving them. You've actually got some clips, haven't you, of your recent trips?
Well, I wish I did. So I'm in Portland right now because I'm working, right? And I brought my personal computer to do this thing. But yeah, I mean, the stuff, if you saw Maverick and you were just an average skier, you'd be like, this is really a place you can go in Montana. There's a Bighorn hot springs, and you can stay in this quaint little log cabin with no water. And I mean, everybody thinks you got to spend $5,000 for a trip, but you could come here. You can spend, for the flight and $2,000. You stay at this picturesque place in Southwest Montana and stay at these hot springs. And I lost trails in the Bitterroot Mountain Range. Have you ever heard of the Bitterroot Mountain Range, Matt?
I've not. I got to be honest with you. Like, again, the U.S. is so vast that my knowledge is pretty limited. I did a little bit in Colorado when I was young, but that's about it.
My point is, I'm not trying to sell myself, but where I'm from, the Inland Northwest, is I know about probably a dozen ski resorts that people would never even know about, combined with hot springs. And if you ask me about them, I'm not trying to make a living on doing this. I like making videos. It's fun to talk to Matt. Yeah. But if you ask me about the resorts, and just like I've given people tips on skiing at Schweitzer, I'll tell you the best runs. I'll tell you where to stay. The best places in the world to ski are Colorado, right? The best places to ski are in maybe not even like in Europe and Austria. But Bramsky's in Canada. He's like Revelstoke's amazing. And Schweitzer, I'm not a big fan of that. It's pretty average skiing. But if you want to know some off the beaten path places, I know where they are. And I'll tell you. If you ask me, I'll give you the tips. I don't know. Maybe I went off script on that, but yeah.
No. They're just, what you've got to do now is save that for your own videos. So then people come to your channel to watch your videos for the little tips.
Yeah, but the fact is that's kind of why I like making the videos. I like learning to make videos. I like sharing the information with my friends. I feel lucky to get there. That's why I love Revelstoke. I feel, like I said, that's the first video I ever made on a review was Revelstoke. Yeah. So I think Revelstoke's amazing.
I think it's definitely changed my view of resorts. Like, I remember going back to Europe briefly at the end of last year, and my outlook on it maybe it's the big mountain skiing thing. Maybe it's not just exclusive to Revelstoke, but I feel like it definitely changed my approach to how I would ski the mountain. When you kind of see everybody on the piece, and then you kind of look off to the side and you see this big cliff that you can boot pack from that 6-8 seater high speed Austrian chairlift, and you go, why is nobody doing that? And I'm going to go and have a look. And then you get some beautiful fresh lines.
Well, I've got some great footage from the day I met you on the sub peak that was scary as shit, and my ribs were just repairing. And I want to turn that into like a how to take the best line on sub peak. because it was beautiful, right? I got my 360 camera. But anyway, does anybody have any last questions? I feel like I could talk to Matt all night. Any other questions? And if there's no more questions, we're going to end this live stream.
I'm going to go and got my New Year's Eve video to edit.
Right on. Hang on. I'm going to get in this, but hang on, Matt, and we'll talk in a little bit.
Yeah.